All right, step 2 in this is to assemble all of these pieces. So you might want to use this image as reference. It also tells you what these pieces are. Okay, so we know that this is the back, these are the sides. One thing you might want to do is right click, set origin, origin to geometry, so the origin point is in the middle. So I'm going to rotate that. Let's bring that over to this back part. And I'm going to add a mirror modifier on this piece right here because I want it to be on the other side of this. So I'm going to add modifier, mirror, and right now it's just mirroring around itself, its own origin point. We want it to mirror around this object. So in the mirror modifier, we have mirror object, click this eyedropper, select the object. So you can see it's off centered. So we need to right click on this object and then do set origin, origin to geometry. Now it's centered. All right, so now we have all our pieces put together. I'm going to hide that because we don't need it anymore. We will need to add a screen in here. So you can probably just add a plane to it. So let's just add a new plane. Scale that down. If you wanted to add some roundness to this, what you would do is you go into edit mode, right click, subdivide, and we'll click this right here and add a couple more cuts. Then we can select this middle one. We're going to turn on proportional editing. The shortcut key is O. Go to a side view just so I can see a little bit better. Now if I press G to move it, I have this fall off right here using my scroll wheel. What that does is it kind of makes it rounder. Oh, right click shade smooth. Let's bring that in because it's now coming out of the screen area. And I'm going to also add a subdivision surface modifier. And I'll just scale this up until it fills that area up. There we go. Now we have a screen for our arcade. All right, the next thing we want to do is create the buttons. So if we look at buttons on an actual arcade machine, let's just pick what we can see. We don't need to make all this stuff. We're not actually 3D printing it or anything. It's just what needs to be seen. So let's take a look at this one right here. So if you look at those buttons, they have like a casing around it and then a button that comes out. And then this joystick just has like a sphere on top of a cylinder. So we've got two cylinders and a sphere there. And then we're going to use cylinders for the buttons. So those are actually pretty easy to make. So let's start with the joystick because that one's really easy. So I'm going to start with a cylinder. Go into edit mode and let's scale this down. I'll turn off proportional editing. Okay, so here's the main part. This is really big. We'll scale it down, so don't worry about that just yet. You can right click, shade auto smooth so we get the sharp edges at the top and bottom. Let's do another cylinder. Scale that down a little bit. It needs to be wider than that, but it's really thin. That's that base. Right click, shade auto smooth. And the last step, UV sphere. Scale that down, move it up, right click, shade smooth. Okay, there's our joystick. Now for the button, cylinder, scale it down. Let's flatten it a bit. We'll make the casing part first. So these are pretty similar sizes, so I'm going to just duplicate this one so I have an extra. And I'm going to select the face in here. Let's inset it and extrude down. Then I can bevel these edges here. So remember, hold Alt to select the edge loop. Right click, shade auto smooth. Let's bring this one in, scale it down so it fits inside there. And I can select this face, I can bevel it. And if we want it to come out or go in, I like the buttons that kind of have like a dip in. So I'm going to select my face there, and I'm going to inset a bunch of times. And then remember proportional editing, we're going to turn that back on. And let's use my scroll wheel to make that smaller. Then it pushes in that geometry based on the fall off. So I'm going to right click, shade auto smooth. So now I have my button and I have my joystick. So let's line these up. So we're just going to lay these out from like a top view, how it might look. Just duplicate these. So probably a little close. Let's adjust that. Okay, so there's player one. Let's duplicate all these, move them over. There's player two. And of course we need a start button for player one and player two. These could probably be a little bit further apart. Okay, so now that we have this laid out like a flat view like this, it'll be easier to set up on the arcade machine. Got everything selected. I'm going to scale everything down. Let's go to my front view here. Let's bring them over here and over here. Let's rotate them now. So I'm in wireframe so I can see the angle of my control panel. And I can match that angle. Okay, these are maybe a little small. We can scale that up. And maybe these are a little close to each other. So I'm just going to press G and then X. And let's move these over. Okay. Next thing we want to do is kind of finalize the geometry. So I'm going to right click on this and do Shade Auto Smooth so that this is nice and smooth right here. But right now, let me turn this off. Right now, these are very sharp edges, and we want to fix that. So what we'll do is we're going to go Add Modifier, and we're going to bevel. So I'm going to change the amount, and I can add how many segments it's going to bevel with. So that way we just have this nice little round edge. We don't need to do that on all of them, but just the main visible ones like these right here. And I'm going to select the one that has that bevel last. So I selected all these, and then I selected the bevel one last. And then I can go down to the bevel modifier and copy to selected. So now these ones have that bevel modifier. Okay, that's it for the finished model.